Thank you and good morning. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this Regional Management Conclave. I hope I'm audible. All right. Thank you so much. I think before the start of this event, I was just having an informal chat with Rekha, and I was saying the world we are living in for the last few years and how we stand today in the current world, I think this is a very, very apt time to have this Regional Management Conclave, and specifically the theme and the topic that we have finalized for today, a world which is very, very uncertain, and in some way it is also leading the development of all of us, how to deal with uncertainty. And I think it comes at a very apt time because we've run through a couple of years of pandemic. We are surely not fully out of it. Hopefully it just dies down. But we are also witnessing a war between Russia and Ukraine, which seems not only a war between two countries, because the world over it has an impact. So I think we are all learning how to live in these times of uncertainty. So I think the theme and the topics are very, very contextual for today, in today's time. I am honored to have with us today Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, President, All India Management Association and Chairman and MD of CavinKare Private Limited, and Mr. D. Shivakumar, Group Executive President, Aditya Birla Management Corporation Limited and past President, All India Management Association, and Ms. Rekha Sethi, Director General, All India Management Association. This conclave is a collective endeavor of the Eastern Region LMAs and AIMA. I recall a couple of months back when we had this discussion that we should organize a regional conclave. A lot of, I think, suggestions came in. We would have loved to have this in person, but I also feel that virtual platforms give us the opportunity for more and larger number of people to connect without actually getting to travel because of busy schedules that everyone's having. And I must thank all the LMAs and AIMA for making this happen. I also thank my own colleagues in JMA, Jamshedpur Management Association, the board and the managing team, to have taken this forward. We all know that in today's world, somewhere the pre-COVID times, the way we used to live, the way we used to do business seems more like a dream now. And there are new ways of working. So we are in a new world in some way. And obviously it brings in new challenges. It also brings in new successes. And I think we are now working in a way which is very, very different. And the change has got accelerated. In some way, we do not have a choice. It's not that whether I want to change or not. The change is getting thrust on us. And I think it is getting accelerated as we move forward. And that's the reason why leadership has a very, very important role to play in today's time. And hence the first session, which we are into just now, is all about leadership and how the leadership needs to strategize and lead differently and effectively in this very uncertain world. And we have with us someone like Mr. D. Shivakumar to speak on that. He's also led organizations over the last few decades, and I know he's a well-known speaker in this field. These will be followed, the inaugural session will be followed with a few more sessions, which are also very apt. Just to give you the topics of these sessions: future of education, how great brands are built, startup to scale up, and the great resignation. All the topics being very contextual and relevant for the current times. We have a battery of renowned speakers today. I welcome all the speakers who are speaking on these topics. It has been a great, I would say, initiative put together by a lot of people, AIMA and the LMAs and JMA. And I look forward to all these sessions. And I welcome all of you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Ms. Rekha Sethi to please introduce the session and the speakers of the inaugural plenary session.
Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Mr. D. Shivakumar, Mr. Chanakya Chaudhary, LMA leaders from the Eastern region, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to have you all with us and a very warm welcome in the 7th Regional Management Conclave. CKR, many thanks for agreeing to address the conclave. You have been associated with the Madras Management Association and you have a keen understanding of the strengths and issues of the LMAs. As AIMA president, you have reached out to the LMAs both digitally and physically and engaged with them for more intensive collaboration with AIMA and among themselves. You hosted the CEOs of the LMAs during the recent National Leadership Conclave in Delhi and had a very fruitful exchange with them. This conclave is a great opportunity for the LMAs of the Eastern region to hear your thoughts on the urgent management issues. Thank you for joining us and a very warm welcome to you. Shiv, many thanks for agreeing to deliver a keynote at the Regional Management Conclave and for offering your guidance to the members and associates of the LMAs in the Eastern region. A past president of AIMA yourself, you have experienced the importance and vitality of LMAs in driving the national management movement. As someone who's in charge of strategy at one of India's leading multinational conglomerates, you can offer an up-close and personal perspective of transformation amid these uncertain times. You've also led some iconic consumer and technology multinationals in India, and you've been part of the radical transformation amid rapid economic and technological change. We look forward to hearing your perspective on managing transformation in a world that is churning widely and offers little certainty. Thank you for joining us and a warm welcome to you. Chanakya, thank you for leading from the front in organizing this virtual regional management conclave for the LMAs in the Eastern region. Jamshedpur Management Association has been an active LMA and is doing a great service to the management fraternity in and around Jamshedpur. It is a pleasure to have you and a very warm welcome to you. A warm welcome to all the leaders and members of all the LMAs in the Eastern region who are joining us in this virtual conclave. I'm sure that you will enjoy interacting with some of the leading business and management thinkers and benefit from their wisdom and guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, AIMA introduced the regional management conclaves during its Diamond Jubilee year in 2017 with the aim of creating a platform where LMAs of each region could come together and explore the emerging management issues and thinking. As it happens, the Eastern region has been the most active in hosting the RMCs, and the 3 of the 7 conclaves so far, including this one, have been hosted by the Eastern region. Many congratulations to East for again taking the leadership here. The RMCs have proved to be very important and effective and have been effective in preparing the LMAs and their constituents for the radical technological and business transformations. This conclave takes the theme of radical change in business transformation further under the dramatic and traumatic circumstances of the last 2 years. The pandemic has accentuated the compulsion to go fully digital, build business agility and resilience, and switch to new ways of working. In addition, the geopolitical strains are making the task of business transformation even more challenging, as mentioned by Chanakya earlier. However, the leaders must persist with their mission by continuously adapting to new challenges and controlling complexity. Therefore, the agenda of the RMC is largely focused on some key aspects of economic and business upgrades in a very uncertain environment. I'm sure you will all enjoy the conclave and learn something new from our key speakers. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure being here with you.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Mr. C.K. Ranganathan to deliver his address.
Thank you. Shiv, Rekha, Mr. Chanakya, LMA leaders from Eastern Zone, eminent guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you and thank you for having me in this regional conclave. Shiv, it's a pleasure to have you and thank you for agreeing to deliver the keynote of this session. You are a past president of AIMA and you appreciate the role of LMAs in building management capacity in the country. You are an exceptional business thinker and a leader, and the audience at this regional conclave would greatly benefit from listening to your observations and perceptions. Thank you for joining us. My compliments to all leaders of the LMAs of the Eastern region for coming together and partnering AIMA in holding this conclave. This initiative is particularly important for rebuilding the bonds between the region's LMAs and their members after a disruption of 2 years. Mr. Chaudhary, Congratulations to you on anchoring the Eastern RMC and providing a platform for the region's management fraternity to network and deliberate on urgent leadership issues. JMA has been an important affiliate of AIMA, and I appreciate the initiative shown by the association in facilitating this conclave. Holding this RMC digitally is a testament to the technological transformation among the LMAs. Before the COVID pandemic, AIMA had limited success in bringing LMAs onto digital platforms and in getting them to adopt digital governance processes. But over the past couple of years, LMAs have digitized enthusiastically, and the quantity and quality of interactions between AIMA and the LMAs has improved substantially. My compliments to the leaders of the Eastern LMAs for responding well to the new circumstances, for laying the foundation for future relevance to the changing enterprises. This conclave is being held at a crucial juncture for the nation and the global economies, as a globalized conflict is interfering with the post-pandemic recovery and rebuilding. The war in Ukraine and the attendant global economic war have added new dimensions to the uncertainty already created by the COVID and technological disruptions. The unreliability of international supply chains, shipping costs and times, volatility of commodity prices, and escalation of inflation, unpredictability of market access, financial risks are making life harder for business leaders. It is only appropriate that the conclave is focusing on leading transformation amidst extreme uncertainty and examining some key facets of the emerging deliverables for the leaders. It has become clear through the pandemic and the old normal in business no longer holds. The world has changed so much during these 2 years that it is not possible to roll back all the new things one has done and go back to the comfortable old ways. Everybody has learned to work and do business online. Workplace is no longer a place. It is a digital application or set of applications. Organizations are a network of people and autonomous machines, not merely a mass of people required to be at a particular location at specific times. Most tasks, transactions, and collaborations can be done remotely, so long as there is a decent wired or airwave connections. Physical and mental health of the employees have become part of the engagement and productivity equations. The competition for talent from startups and tech giants has become more intense, and all companies are expected to deliver a tech-like employee experience and career opportunities. Clearly, there is no option but to transform and keep up with the latest fashions in business and work. However, even as the need for transformation is dire, the radical uncertainty is making it difficult to settle on any route or destination. Also, the risk of causing self-harm in the process of self-upgrade has become extremely high. Still standing still, the worst for the options. Almost equally, risk is exchanging the familiar for the latest in panic. A common strategy during uncertainty is to seek the safety of the herd and follow the crowd in the hope that if something goes wrong, you would survive to learn from others' errors and misfortunes. However, the herd strategy requires one to be luckier than others, something that can't be the only strategy to get through the uncertainty times. The key to navigate uncertainty during transformation is setting on the organization's core objectives and values, which remain immutable under various circumstances. To ensure permanency of such objectives and values, a leader must build the necessary assets, team, processes, and relationships. Then these resources must be arranged in a flexible and upgradable matrix to be agile and resilient. Optimism is a powerful antidote for the anxiety of uncertainty. However, it is difficult to make plans based on optimism alone when it is hard to tell what could happen in if the economy and the business ecosystem of the next day collapse or rise, whatever that comes in your way. When things can change overnight and without clear warning, it is better to break down the long-term strategies and targets into short-term pieces, which can be adjusted quickly with least pain and cost. However, the long-term direction of the organization must guide the adjustments, and both must be communicated clearly and frequently to at least the key stakeholders to keep them facing the same way. Annual budgets may lose meaning at a time of daily uncertainty. As leaders transform organizations and businesses for the emerging trends and environment, they may prefer to shorten budget horizons. Staying liquid enough to withstand sudden short disruptions is critical. Protecting margins becomes important during the uncertainty, even at the cost of revenue growth. However, it is vital to have a clear deadlines for renewal of or expiry of emergency measures. The all or nothing transformation projects are not advisable during extremely uncertainty. If possible, one may invest incrementally in modularized transformation. The companies in the early stages of transformation may sandbox the experimental and innovative products and methods. The mainstream businesses can be insulated while completely new approaches can be applied to a limited part of the business ecosystem. This helps the leaders learn what works and what doesn't, and roll out only the successful solutions across the entire business ecosystem. Whenever required or possible, one may look to share both risk and opportunities with specialists, especially in technology upgrades and business model changes. For most enterprises that are trying to reinvent themselves as digital businesses, using leading financial, commerce, and collaboration platforms would be faster, cheaper, and more efficient. In an unstable environment, fast business intelligence and response are critical for both everyday operations and the transformation projects. It helps to decentralize power and send substantial decision-making and innovation authority to customer-facing nodes of the organization. Flattening the hierarchy is key to improving awareness and reflexes of an organization. The leaders must reach out to people at middle and bottom level of the hierarchy to get a more realistic picture of the businesses, as those normally surrounded the leaders have a vested interest in keeping the leader cocooned. Direct communication by the leader also ensures clarity and commonality of the important issues and helps everybody pull together the same direction. It minimizes speculations and subversion down the line. It also helps to promote the insiders to the new roles by upskilling them, as it saves time and costs involved in assessing and assimilating strangers. One of the important need at this time is one data for all. I think with the advent of technologies, I think everybody is transforming into that transparency in data making and centralized using the analytics for coming with a lot of inferences, predictive and prescriptive analytics. These are going to be the way of life. And over and above, what the human mind does with those data is very important, because analytics will definitely, a well-evolved analytics system will throw out a lot of sharp insights. I think it's very important when it leaves the kind of the leading edge to navigate and adjust the whole enterprise towards that and come out with brilliant execution frameworks. And nevertheless, I think artificial intelligence can never replace a human mind, and you can over and above analyze and put your own perspectives into work. I think that's very important in my point of view. However, intelligence has to be centralized for a holistic visibility and better distribution of vital information across the organization. To have live intelligence and more informed response to the conditions, pervasive data collection and automated analytics have become necessary. Leaders must find ways to develop or customize algorithms that they can trust with meaningful insights, predictions, and automated process decisions. Environment, social, and governance, ESG issues, are also contributing to the uncertainty for businesses with direct or indirect global linkages. The governments of the rich economies are considering using ESG standards and laws to shape economies and policies in the developing countries. The raising of alarm about man-made climate change and the varying degrees of panicky responses are facing businesses to review their energy, material, process, and product choices. The EU is already in the process of making laws that will discriminate against companies whose production and logistics practices do not match the EU standards on emissions. Others can be expected to follow suit or retaliate. Either way, businesses face future uncertainty over international trade and investment because of the competing environmental standards and laws. During the leadership conclave, which was held recently, I was talking about the cross-border cartelization. I think that is also haunting the business environment. Gone are the days that shipping companies and the vessels, the containers companies are all cartelizing. And what we thought the short-term pain because of COVID caused the disruptions in logistics will come down is no more coming down easily. I think this is a very, very important thing that people have tasted. Earlier it used to be few industries within the country. Only crude used to practice a cartelization globally, but now many commodities, that's the norm. Similarly, there is a growing trend of governments using human rights, labor practices, corporate transparency, and even geopolitical loyalty as conditions for permitting cross-border investments and trade. A concoction of moral, cultural, scientific, and political quarrels between nations in different blocks of countries and adapt their businesses and brands to local tastes and preferences. Transparency and communication are also key element of business transformation in the digital age. There is no room for secrets or privacy for either the individual or the business when everyone and everything is digitized and algorithms track and trace whatever goes on. This is the norm. If the companies who don't practice transparency, I think they will become extinct, is my viewpoint. The uncertainty between anonymized tracking and full traceability poses a challenge to managers who are not comfortable doing their job in a glass cage. Moreover, the mob judgment of social media has an immediate and extensive impact on business and individuals. The leaders undertaking transformation these times have to be mindful of exposure and communication. It is not enough to be true or innocent, as the volume and spin of communication determines the outcome. Then there is also the threat of data and communication system getting compromised by cyber attacks. Building firewalls against intrusion and theft in the digitized ecosystem is a persistent transformation challenge which must be overcome. Overall, the transformation leaders have their hands full and they need to expand their awareness and seek help in order to implement a stable transformation amid great uncertainties. I'm sure today's regional management conclave will see some excellent discussions as we have outstanding speakers. Wishing a great session ahead. Shiv, looking forward to hearing you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ranga, very much for that wonderful session. I have many thoughts which reflect that, and I'm going to add to that. So, Sanjay, will you put up my slide, please? So, good morning, the Eastern Region LMAs. It's a pleasure. I'm told that there are more than 500 of you on the call. It's a pleasure to do this. And as I jokingly tell Rekha all the time, I am seen as AIMA's son-in-law. So, Rekha taps me whenever she needs me to talk anywhere. So that's why I'm here. Thank you, Ranga. Ranga has been a friend for over 25 years, a competitor, a friend, and a great guide. So I'm really happy that he is the president of the All India Management Association and he's doing a superb job here. So Sanjay, next slide, please. So the first thing is the topic is very relevant, as all of us have spoken about it. I think leading transformation. If you just type transformation into your search engine, you will get 4.8 billion articles on transformation. 4.8 billion articles. That must be one of the most searched words on a search engine. Almost every company in its annual report, in its annual commentary to the shareholders, says that we are transforming some part of the business or the other. All the companies that I have been involved in, whether it's Unilever, whether it's Nokia, whether it's PepsiCo, whether it's Aditya Birla Group, we've constantly talked of transforming. Why do we constantly talk of transforming? Because the world is changing much faster and it's very, very difficult to get lost in a fast changing world. So that's the reason why almost everybody needs to transform. Next slide, please. What do I mean by everybody needs to transform? I think you need to identify the need. Why do I need to transform? Where do I need to transform? And most important, how do I need to transform? If you look at it, countries have transformed over the last 50, 60 years. Let me give you two specific examples. Singapore. Singapore was actually merged with Malaysia, and Malaysia said around the 1950s that you are a drain on us you are just taking too much, resource from us. And they told Singapore, demerge yourself, go and be a separate country. In the 1960s, Singapore did not have clean drinking water. Today, see Singapore 60 years later. They're absolutely one of the first world countries, a very advanced country. And look at the same Malaysia in relation to Singapore. There's absolutely no doubt that Singapore has moved far ahead. It had very strong leadership, very strong value system, very clear rules. That's the reason it moved ahead. The other example of a country which has transformed in less than 50 years, or I would say even 30 years, is the United Arab Emirates and Dubai. If you landed in Dubai in the 1990s and you land in Dubai today, it's a dramatically different world. And remember, the local population is less than 5% of Dubai, but it's the expat population and the whole market and the whole appeal of Dubai is to a global world. So Dubai is another country which has transformed. So both Singapore and Dubai are great examples of people who transform. Let's look at examples of institutions which need to transform. Ever since the pandemic, the World Health Organization has come under enormous challenge. Have they transformed? I suggest to you the answer is no. They're still doing what is required in the past. They're not looking ahead to say what can happen in the future, what do we need to do. Let's look at the new war which is in front of us, the Russia-Ukraine war. Has NATO transformed? The answer is no. Maybe they're one of the reasons why we are in this situation right now. So now NATO needs to transform for a future world. They were created at the end of World War II, but they need to transform for a future world. So institutions like the World Health Organization, like the NATO needs to transform. Let's look at companies. Have companies transformed? The answer is no. Some of the biggest companies like General Electric, which is a 160-year-old company, got split into three. It just didn't see the future. For a time, GE could do no wrong. And for a time, GE could do no right. And this is what happens. You have to identify the need, you have to change at the right time, and you have to have the right process to change. Let's look at the startups today. The number of startups who are listed who are doing extremely badly on the stock market. Their share prices really tanked. Do they need to transform? The answer is yes, but they're unwilling to transform. They're still stuck in the past. So the biggest challenge to transformation is old habits, old dogma, refusal to see a future world. And the same is true not just for companies, I submit to you, it's true for individuals also. We are a system of our habits, and some habits have worked for us. Some new habits need to be built on the way, but we don't do it. Next slide, please. So, one of the reasons we need to transform is that the pace of change and the demands on each are accelerating significantly. Today, almost everything is in a fast-paced world. You have just been reading, I'm sure, on social media, this whole thing of delivery and whether delivery in 10 minutes is a valid promise, or delivery in 20 minutes is a valid promise, or delivery in 10 minutes will create more anxiety and more, will create more problems for the drivers, etc. So that is something which is the pace of change. And the pace of change will only accelerate in a coming world. Next slide, please. One of the outcomes of this kind of a pace of change is the mortality of companies. In 1935, the average age of a company was 90 years old. Today, it's less than 10. That's less than 20, sorry, 10 is a mistake. So that's a dramatic change. Some people say it's 12, some people say it's 15, some people say it's 18, but it's less than 20. And I would say in a future world, it'll come down to less than 15. So if the company is only going to live for about 15, 20 years, there'll be two types of companies in my book. One is the old legacy companies, which will be around for 50 years, 100 years. And then there'll be the new age companies, which will be around for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They'll morph, they will change, they'll be bought over, or they'll collapse. One of the two will happen. So the question for us as individuals when we transform is, okay, what type of a company do we want to join? If the age of a company is going to be 15, 20 years, and our career is going to be 30 to 35 years, Which type of company will we choose? Will we choose an old age legacy company or will we choose a startup? If we choose a startup or a young company, then our career becomes like riding a surf, like riding a wave. We constantly need to ride the wave or the current in order to get ahead. So we need to transform our skill sets and we need to go that way. Next slide, please. One of the things I have noticed is that companies get slower as they age. This is an absolute truism. Institutions get slower, companies get slower. The question you could well ask me is, why do companies get slower? They get slower because they have bad habits which creep in, old habits which creep in. Silos. One silo does not talk to the other. Okay? Are not invented here syndrome. We are successful. We know what to do. We don't need to listen to anybody else. Turf wars. This is my turf. Thou shalt not come onto my turf and tell me what to do. Okay. And many times when a company gets slow, it gets slow because it's protecting the old. It is not creating the new. Because you're protecting the old, you're taking so much time, so much unnecessary, work to protect something which cannot be protected. And finally, in every company that gets slow, I've seen that managers tend to be like security guards. Won't touch the building. You're not allowed. You can only see from the outside. Whereas managers in companies which are fast think more like architects. They say the building is this. Can I change the grill? Can I change the paint? Can I add a new facade? Can I add a new pathway? Okay. Can I add trees? That's what they do. They don't take what is being given to them as granted, as a given. So companies get slow as they get older. So every old company needs to watch out for this bad habit called slow. Next slide, please. This is something that I've said many, many times over in the last, I think, 10 years. In the last 25 years, I have not seen a big company beat a small company. I have not seen it at all. Not one big company has beaten a small company. However, a fast company has beaten a slow company. So whether you're big, whether you're medium sized, whether you're small, whether you're a startup is not the issue, but how fearless on the weakness of a large company. They're absolutely merciless. They're like gorillas. They fight and they drive mercilessly that wedge wherever the big company is slow. This is what I've seen. So you have to ask yourself, how can I become a faster company, a quicker company? If you become a faster company, you'll become a bigger company. It is not necessary that if you become a bigger company, you'll become a faster company. So transformation must be led by pace and not by size. Next slide. So what can leaders do? The job of a leader in normal times is very tough. And it's even tougher when the leader has to plan a transformation either for his company or his department or for the industry. The challenges before a leader are, what do I continue and what do I change? Okay, what is core to my organization and what is new to my organization? How do I retain old talent yet bring new capabilities and new people in and make them feel valued without upsetting the old people in the organization? And how do I speeden up yet when necessary I slow down to give me breathing space? These are the real challenges for leaders as you think of transformation. And finally, the biggest challenge for a leader when you go through transformation is, what is the communication that I put out to people? If I go and tell people, hey, you know what, a company is going to get transformed, how will they see it? Will they get scared? The moment I say, hey, we are getting transformed, does that mean I'm telling them to go look for jobs? Does transformation equal job losses? These are serious questions that a leader needs to think about. Next slide, please. The simple thing I would tell you for all leaders is go to the marketplace. The truth is in the market always. The truth is with the customers. The truth is with the consumers. Talk to them. Organize that information. Get more people to feel the heat of the marketplace. The reason why old habits in organizations develop is because people are unwilling to listen to the changes in the marketplace. When the salesperson sends a report or says something, somebody says, yeah, we heard that before. This has happened in Guwahati in 1945 and nothing came out of it. Or it has happened in Madhya Pradesh in 1971 and nothing came of it. We tend to foo-foo every small thing which comes up. I do realize that some salespeople will always over-exaggerate to tell you that there is a problem. But if there are 20 messages coming to you from the front line, it's likely that at least one of them might be telling you the truth. So I would tell you, you should personally travel to the market, to the coalface, go and meet your customers. And when you meet your customers, ask them a simple question. How am I doing vis-a-vis my competitors? What can I do better for you? Am I solving your problems? If your customer talks to you in the old way, saying you used to do this, that's trouble. If the customer addresses you in the past tense, then you are in trouble. You need to transform very quickly. If the customer says, hey, you know what? You are leading the way. You are one of the early people who is doing this, then you should celebrate that. So go talk to your customers, go talk to the marketplace, check if they're talking to you in the past tense or they're talking to you in the future tense and telling you that you are on your way. That's the only way. The truth is always there in the marketplace. It is not there in the boardrooms of a company. Next slide, please. Next thing, and Ranga spoke about this, I always think that in every company, there are 4 levels that you need to think about of anything. There's data, there's information, there's insight, there's solution. Some companies just require more data. If you're entering a new market or a new segment, you'll say, hey, get me some data on that market. Is that market attractive? How large is it? How many competitors? What kind of profitability, etc. I submit to you, companies use less than 5% of the data they have today, believe it or not. The second is information. Where can I get information? What can I get information? The real challenge to companies today is actually insights. Companies do not have insights. Companies have loads of data, loads of information in a world which is absolutely free-flowing with data and information. Once you have the insight for the problem which the consumer or the customer is facing, then you can provide a solution. Quite often we think that just putting a platform off there, just putting a website off there is a solution, it will solve it. That's not true. You need to have the insight based on the data and information you have about your company, about your channel, about your industry, before you can go to the solution phase. If you do not have the proper mechanism of data, information, insight gathering, your solution will be a mistake. So the transformation solution that you're seeking needs to go through a very thorough process of this. Next slide. The organization is a vertical hierarchy, and this does not help transformation. If you look at the organization of today, it drew its principles from 2 sources, the army and the church, and both were vertical hierarchies. In a vertical hierarchy, things go up and down the line, and that creates a lot of slowness. In the past, an organization would have 10 to 15 layers and maybe sub-layers. Today, most organizations will have 7 to 8 layers and maybe some sub-layers. I submit to you that the future organization will have less than 5 layers. That means middle management will go away. That is one of the things that the PEs and VCs really drive. They take away chunks of middle management. When organizations get flatter, and Ranga spoke about this, then what happens is spans of control increase. If spans of control increase, I used to have 18 people reporting to me when I was in PepsiCo. So Peter Drucker, who enunciated the concept of the span of control, said that a manager can handle 8 people. But that was in a non-technology world, which was 1920, no email, only paper, etc. If today people need to handle 15 to 20 people, then you need to transform yourself in the way you manage time. You need to transform your own skill set. You need to transform your own decision-making abilities. So there'll be enormous pressure on you as a leader to transform yourself in an organization which is going to get flatter in hierarchy, but wider in horizontal measures. So the key is to ensure that you go up and down and sideways in the organization as quickly as possible with your information, insights, and your influence. Next slide, please. If you want transformation in an organization, Look for horizontal collaboration. Are various departments handing over to the next person seamlessly? So the BPO industry gave us the concept of the SLA. Okay, you need to apply SLAs in your organization. In both Nokia and PepsiCo, I used to actually measure the responsiveness of every team. The top 30 teams, I used to measure every 2 months how responsive they were to the other, and the whole organization would vote on the responsiveness. And you have to hold people accountable for collaborating with the other function, not collaborating within the function. People are very good collaborating within the function because they see themselves as one unit which is fighting somebody else, which is what I talked about the turf wars. The true transformation, the true agility will come when you have horizontal collaboration. Next slide, please. The other thing about transformation is to look at trends. When you look at trends, I'd ask you to look at trends at a society level, at a family level, at an individual level. If a trend ticks all three boxes, that is the society, the family, and the individual, you can be almost certain that it will be at your doorstep. For example, let's take sugar and diabetes. Sugar is a problem for individuals, sugar is a problem for family, sugar is a problem for society. For individuals, today we have more than 110 million people in India who suffer from diabetes. For a family, how does it transform? Healthier food habits. In Chennai, where Ranga comes from, millets sell a lot. In that state today, rice is being replaced by millets. In the refrigerator, the housewife does not keep any soft drink. She keeps health drinks. She keeps maybe something with milk. So milk is substituting soft drinks. Milk is the most preferred drink right now. For society, what's the problem? Healthcare cost of diabetes and sugar is a problem. The same is true for obesity. Look at individuals' obesity. In America, more than I think 45% of people are obese. That impacts the family. That impacts society in healthcare costs. It impacts society in terms of insurance costs. Okay. Take privacy, social media and privacy. It impacts the individual. It impacts the family. It impacts society. Take technology. It impacts the individual. It impacts family. It impacts society. Take ecology and sustainability. It impacts the individual, it impacts the family, it impacts the society. So every time somebody talks of a trend, ask yourself a simple question. Does it impact the individual, the family, and society? And you can be sure then that trend will come to your doorstep. It will come upon you very, very quickly. Next slide, please. Whenever we see trends, whenever we go through transformation, we need to build scenarios. We need to build what I call a what if. What if this happens? What if that happens? That is what the scenario building is about. So let me explain how you could build a scenario. Next slide, please. In every business, and Ranga spoke of, do we need an annual budget? In PepsiCo, not in Nokia, in 2002, we used to have 6 monthly budgets. So the year was split into 2 because it was a fast changing industry, and we used to have 2 budgets, not 1. We forgot everything on June 30th, July 1 started something new. By December, we forgot. We used to track month-on-month growth, okay? Not even quarter-on-quarter growth. All plans I notice are either pessimistic, realistic, or optimistic, okay? And every time you build a scenario, you need to build these 3 situations there. If FY22 has been a tough year, you can be sure that the sales team will give you a pessimistic plan. If on the other hand, if FY22 was a damn good year, the sales team will give you a very optimistic plan. Everybody is walking on in air. I think the role of a leader is to ensure that you get to a realistic plan. A realistic plan in my book is something which you will hit plus minus 5%. That is what I call a realistic plan. And all your costs must be on a pessimistic basis. So whatever is your pessimistic plan, please build your cost structure on that. There are many companies who transform, who build a cost structure on an optimistic plan, and when the revenue and the margin do not happen, then they are saddled and then they die. Because the fixed cost is so high, they're not able to service it. So all your costs must be on a pessimistic plan. Convert as many costs as possible into variable costs and do not have fixed costs. So the truth is, you have the conversation in the organization to say, give me a number you will definitely meet. That doesn't mean if somebody has done 100 last year, he tells you, know what, I'll do 80 and that's fine. Because you already have a cost structure which is running for 100. So you have an inflation which is catching up with you, 7%, 10%, etc. So all your plans must be realistic, but they must also be inflation proof. If you do not manage like that, you'll never get transformation. Next slide. So in summary, thank you very much, Region East LMAs for inviting me to do this. Thank you very much, Ranga and Rekha, for inviting me to do this. I think the world needs to transform, whether it's a country, I gave you the example of Singapore and Dubai, whether it's an institution, I gave you the example of the World Health Organization or NATO, or it's companies, and I gave you the example of General Electric. Everybody needs to transform. At an individual level, each of us need to transform. If we do not transform, our team will not transform, and hence our company will not transform, and hence our society will not transform. So whenever you think of transformation, be clear about the communication you put out there. Whenever you talk the word transformation, people get scared. People think that there are job losses coming up now, things are going to change. My future is not secure. So you have to be extremely clear how you convey what you want to convey around transformation. Every time you build plans, please ensure that your plans are vetted on realism, being optimistic and being pessimistic. Your cost structure must always be on the pessimistic plan. Organizations are getting flatter. Organizations getting flatter means more span of control for people, which means more horizontal collaboration is necessary. Layers of middle management will go away with automation. Today, we have more collaboration vehicles on our laptop than ever before. The world of transformation is a tough world. It's not an easy world. Less than 30% of companies who start on a transformation journey actually make the numbers necessary for the transformation. So that's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. All the best. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Shiv. I think it was a very enlightening speech. I think it's very much needed and need of the hour. I think you have very clearly put all the important aspects on the table. So I have a question from audience. Hope you have some time. Okay, thanks. And do you think the globalization is coming to an end because of the kind of conflicts and war, China, everybody is trying to behave very differently? And the digital currencies are showing up, and we don't know whether the US dollar will continue to be dominant. All these things, do you have any view on that? How the kind of this thing will impact the end of globalization kind of a scenario as of now?
Yeah, so globalization in the past was seen as transfer of goods between countries, manufactured products. That's what it was. So if you look at the total exports in the world, it's about 11 trillion out of a global economy this year, which is 95 to 100 trillion. And imports was also 10, 11 trillion. The big trading economies were the top countries like China, America, etc. What we actually see today is, thanks to digital, we're seeing pockets of regionalization develop, regional pockets, because all technology platforms are global platforms. Okay, so we are seeing a lot more trade happening globally on digital platforms. So, and also if you look at the top industries, Ranga, the number one industry in the world is financial services, which is $23 trillion. Now, the financial services sector has always been a moat thanks to the central banks. And the point you raise, the fiat currency has been the dollar. After the dollar has been the euro, after that has been the pound, after that has been the renminbi. Okay. Now, with the current crisis, there is a partial shift to gold, because gold, we've noticed every time there's uncertainty, gold picks up. Gold is an automatic hedge. Will the dollar go away as the fiat currency? Unlikely, because it's got a history and a legacy to it. So everybody who's threatened the dollar, the previous currency was, but one thing which will definitely happen is central banks issuing digital currency. I think that's a given. Okay, because if you want a currency to be established, two countries have to say, number of people to say that. Now that depends on the strength of your economy and the ability of your currency to be pegged at the right value against other currencies. So I think that will take some distance. And I believe only the top 5 economies in the world will have some degree of control over the fiat currency. America, it has a currencies will come in, central bank currencies will come in. It'll take some time.
Okay, thanks. Rekha, I will depend on you to kind of field the question from the chat box because I connected through mobile and I have connectivity issues. That's why I'm not able to see the chat box.
Sure. So there have been a lot of questions, Shiv, for you. One of the questions is, what are the opportunities and threats for Indian enterprises amid the prevailing churn and uncertainty?
So, see, the total employment in India is about 460 million people or so. Okay, I was just reading some data saying that it's an all-time low right now, etc. Small and medium enterprises, which is about 64 million enterprises, account for about 125 million people. Okay, that's all. I think the big opportunity for Indian enterprises is actually to go digital, to serve unmet needs. Because what does digital do? It just is merciless on the middleman who adds no value. Okay, is the shortest distance between the producer and the consumer. So there are so many opportunities for creating new businesses in a digital way, or to conduct old businesses in a digital way. I think that is the key for all young enterprises in this country, and that's where the biggest opportunity is. Now, why do I call it the biggest opportunity? Because old established companies will take time to do it. They will constantly take one step forward, two steps back. It's the young company which can do it and really show to the world that change is possible.
So I think moving from your answer, there is a question that says, how should leaders of small and medium enterprises approach rebuilding and transforming uncertainty? So you're saying they should do it, but how should they do it is what?
How should they go about doing it? Apply to large organizations, less than 100 people. You fluidity of your organization. You have to have multiple ways of working. There is no department, there is no silo thinking. The CEO is everything, and everybody who works for him is a CEO. And small organizations thrive when they have what I call the owner's mentality, where everybody feels like an owner, everybody feels like an underdog, everybody has an enemy or a competitor to go after. That spirit you need to create in a small organization. Without that spirit, it does not work. So for example, you know what? I need to show the big boys that I'm around and I'm willing to do something.
Okay, coming to a management question, really. How should one plan for building a leadership pipeline at a time when the business ecosystem is in a flux and the network's know-hows and skills are undergoing rapid obsolescence?
Very good question. So I call this the 3L. Number one, longevity of companies is no longer given. Companies will come and go. They will die in 10 years, they'll die in 15 years. Number one. Number two, loyalty of an employee is not a given. Employees will work for you for 2 years, employees will work for you for 3 years. I'm one of those rare guys who work for many years in a company. Okay, very rare. Okay, nobody works for a company for more than 2-3 years right now.
Me.
You too. Ranga, of course, has his own company, and of course, Chanakya. Okay, long-serving people. That's a rarity. Okay, it will absolute rarity. The third, which will keep you relevant, is learning. The only thing which guarantees your individual transformation, your team's transformation, and your company's transformation is if you're willing to learn and put the elements of your learning into the transformation process to transform yourself for the company. If you don't learn, you are history in today's world.
Well, there are many more questions, but we have run out of time. So we just have a minute to go. I'll request Chanakya to close the session.
Thanks, Rekha. And I think it's fantastic. This session was in some way an eye-opener. Both Mr. Ranganathan and Mr. Shivakumar. I think especially the thought processes you brought in terms of how the whole journey of an organization has moved or is moving from the hierarchy that we had seen in vertical hierarchy to flat organizations from, I like the way you positioned your thought, Shiv, with regard to, the big eating the small or the fast eating the slow. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused by the size of it. And it's amazing how in very simple words you put in, and even the last one about the 3 L's, about longevity, loyalty, and learning. And I was looking at myself saying, am I becoming extinct now? Because I spent 34 years in Tata Steel. So in some way, what you say is absolutely right. We also see it in our own company today. The youngsters who join in do not have a plan beyond 2 to 3 years. And that's their own personal plan, development plan. And I think it goes a long way in saying how to take it, how the new world is changing and has already changed in some way. I think it's a fantastic inaugural session that we have gone through, specifically in these uncertain times as we see. But I think the mantra that I have heard and all of us have heard from both of you have been amazing. I think President also gave us a lot of insights, and Shiv, you've always been a leader in your own right. You've always given a lot of eye-openers and thought-provoking stuff, which I think I have noted a few for my own self and my own team, and I'm sure others would have done so. And thank you very much for this enlightening session. Thanks a lot once again.